Alright, so let's go over some basic redstone mechanics that will be important for this project. The main redstone component in redstone is of course the redstone itself, or in Minecraft it's known as just redstone dust. This redstone dust basically acts as a wire for a signal to travel through. This signal can travel up to 15 in-game blocks before that power runs out, or the signal is strengthened by a different power source. So here the power source is being represented by the green block, which is powered by this lever. You can see the lamp turns on, and you can see how it starts with the power of 15 but is reduced the further and further it goes away from said power source until it reaches just a power of 1. If I were to go past this, for instance, let's say I turn it this way, you notice that this one does not have any power, as it is now too long for it to receive any power. But let's say this wire received power from a different source, well, it automatically prioritizes that higher power. So if I added power here, you can see how there's a 15 now here, and it continues to go down from there instead, as that is now the strongest power, and this block is now being powered because it is close enough to the new power source. Another very important component of redstone that we'll be using a lot in this project is the redstone repeater. Well, the redstone repeater, it's a very simple component. Basically, it was added to add delay to your circuits, and it does this by a setting on it that you can change in game that changes how long the delay is. So in Minecraft, delays in time is measured in ticks, so this would be 1 tick, 2 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks, and for every real life second there are 20 ticks, so you would need 5 fully maxed out 4 tick repeaters to make a full second of delay in your circuit. But another very important use that we are using the repeater for is that they can actually extend the signal strength of circuits. So if I apply the power here, you can see it just acts as a normal wire. The power runs down here, reaches the repeater, but the repeater extends the and strengthens it and returns the power back to 15, so it is able to go another 15 blocks. So this allows us to extend our lines to make them longer, with the caveat that there is now a tick of delay in our circuit. But this is very important because it allows us to not only compact our machines, but strengthen strengthen the lines of our circuits and components that we'll be using later on. Another redstone component that we would use very often in our project here is the redstone torch. And the redstone torch basically is a power source for our redstone signals. But more importantly, they have a unique mechanic where when you apply power to whatever block they are attached to, so this green block is attached to this green block, I apply power to it using this lever, and it turns off. So using this mechanic, one could essentially create inverted signals and NOT gates. So in this specific gate right here, this is a very simple NOT gate implementation. The lever is currently in the off position, and you can see by this lamp representing the lever's state. But if I put it into the on position, well, this power goes out, and the resulting lamp is no longer turned on. So this is essentially a NOT gate because we're receiving basically a 1 input, but outputs a 0 input instead. So now we're going to go over some basic logic gates that you could implement in Minecraft and using its mechanics. So here I have 3 very common logic gates that you would find in any digital circuit. And these logic gates are going to be the backbone for our main project later on. So this first, actually let's start with the second one. So the second one here is essentially the equivalent of an AND gate, and this AND gate it works very just as an AND gate would. So you would give it 2 inputs here, and when both of the inputs are true or 1, the result is also going to be 1. But both of them have to be 1. It doesn't work if they're one of them is going to be off. So, and while I do not want to get into the specifics on why this specific design works, basically it uses a lot of inverters to and smaller NOT gates of its own to work as an AND gate should. So you can see here, if I were to briefly go through it, these blocks right here on the ends with these torches on top of it are being powered by the inputs with these repeaters, giving it a strong input, and that turns off this one. But this middle dust is our main state dust. It is still on because this one is still being powered. So basically this dust is essentially the checker to see if these are both off. Well, when they're both off, this dust turns off, and that allows this torch to turn on because it's no longer being powered by this dust on top. So that is how this basic NOT gate, or not NOT gate, but AND gate works. And over here we have an very simple OR gate. So OR gates are actually really simple in Minecraft because basically for OR logic is you just have to apply multiple signals to the same outputting wire. So you can see here we just apply a signal to these blocks, which transmits the signal over here to this redstone wire, which in consequence turns on the resulting lamp. And it doesn't matter which one we turn on because they're both connected to the redstone wire. So that's how you would create a general OR gate. It's very, very simple. It's very easy to implement. Over here is it's a little more complicated. This is an XOR gate. So a gate that would only output if one or the other is being turned on. So just to give it a small demonstration, this one's turned on. The resulting one is on. If they're both off, then they're both off. But if I turn the green one on, it also turns on. But if I turn both green and blue on, well, it turns off. So this works because an OR gate is essentially comprised of an AND gate followed by some more NOT gates to basically correct the AND gate's output. So you can kind of see here the layout is a little similar to an AND gate at the very beginning here, except we add these other torches to continue the signal here, so that basically when one of these is off, one of these blocks is being powered and this is off, the other one can still power this resulting lamp. So that's kind of the logic behind that. But there's also this AND gate right here, which is similar to this checker right here that turns this lamp on. And so when this lamp is being turned on, which is activated by both of these being on, this AND gate now turns both of these lamps off, which in turn turns this lamp off, or both of these torches off, I should say, and turns the lamp off. So that's kind of how that works. Okay, so now we're going to go over how the 4-bit adder works in our BCD adder. So looking at this circuit here, it might look kind of messy and kind of like a bunch of wires together in a spaghetti formation, but this is all of these are very, very intentional repeated sections. As you can see, the green here, it's all identical. They all have the same components and same circuitry, and all the blue is also all the same. Over there is just a more repeated section, but we're going to be focusing on just this part for now. So this green / blue section here is going to output, it basically represents a full adder. This is a full adder right here. So if you were to take a look at the logic diagram for a full adder, it starts with an XOR gate, and then leads into another XOR gate that will eventually output the sum. So that's what the green and blue is right here. So this is an XOR gate, as referred to earlier when we talked about the different gates. This is a slightly modified version of that XOR gate, and then here's another one, so you can see the output goes into the next one. And this purple line here is also kind of important for a full adder because this is the carry input. So this carry input also goes into the next XOR gate, which in turn outputs the signal. And then the rest of these other colors just are the AND gates that represent the carry out for this full adder. So making a 4-bit adder specifically, we would have to take 4 individual full adders and essentially carry on the input value through each of the adders in sequence. So you can see each of these full adders have their own output from the XOR gates, but they also have this purple line here that takes those AND gates that represent the carry out and carry them to the next full adder for them to process, and then in turn possibly change whatever output that is going to be outputting from the XOR gates. So that is essentially how this 4-bit adder works, which would be very useful and important in our BCD adder later on. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over the modification I made to the full adder circuit that allows the first XOR gate to essentially output an XOR output and an AND output. So because of the dynamic nature of this game and this application, the gates that we make here are more interchangeable and dynamic than just your average logic gates that you would find in your digital logic circuits. So as in there are multiple like lines of power going here that all output the final correct single line of power that we desire. So for instance, if I were to go to a more secluded section over here, this is the same XOR gate that we've been looking at with the AND gate that's right underneath it. Well, this AND gate here, how we are getting it is from this torch output right here. So to get the AND value from the XOR gate, you take this AND part right here, which is what this part represents. You would do an AND gate first, and then you would take this value, which is being represented by this torch, and takes it all the way down over here, and then this is processing that AND value and carrying it to the next carry out for the next adder to use. So you can see that in action right here. Actually, let's go over this one. You can see in action right here, it carries that value and takes it to the purple line, which is, like I said before, the carry out for the next carry in the next adder. So that's essentially how I was able to combine these two gates to make them more dynamic and allow 2 outputs. And really, I could have easily just made a separate line for the AND gate, but because again of the nature of this game and this application, we were able to compact things essentially, and it makes it look a lot cleaner, especially for the final product. Okay, so now we're going to go over how the BCD adder works with all of our components that we've discussed all put together. So you can see here I've kind of taken the full adders and the 4-bit adder from over here and applied it the same exact thing over here. It's literally copy and pasted down to the components. And like the full adder, or not the full adder, but the 4-bit diagram, the 4-bit adder diagram in the report, you can see I added this beginning XOR gate in front of the full adders. So this allows these 4-bit adders to do addition and subtraction. But in our case, our final output only does the addition part anyways, as it would take a lot more than just this to give it a subtraction output. But so in this case, they're kind of negligible, but it does do that, and these lamps actually do show the subtraction output if used correctly. if I were to give a demo here. So I give it the A value of 2, and then I'm gonna subtract it, so I give it a carry in of 1, and then subtract it by 1 here, so B value of 1. So then yeah, so it has a binary value of just 1. And keep in mind, this is also, the one flaw to this would be that this is backwards. So this is the very first digit, second digit, third digit, fourth digit. So this would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3, this would be, this would be 2, this would be 4, this would be 8. So that is the one flaw. You could easily make it so that's just flip it, but that would require me adding a lot more wire here and making it less simple. But for now, this will do. So I'm just gonna click the reset button here, just so it resets all the lamps. Okay. So now you kind of got a little sneak peek of the display here, but for the rest part here, this is gonna be the second 4-bit adder that is connected to as part of the BCD adder. So you can see the output from the first 4-bit adder all comes to here and here. So you can see, but you will notice that the logic for this one is a lot less robust than the logic up here, because in how a BCD adder work is that since a lot of the calculations are actually going to be done in the first part of the adder, in the first 4-bit adder. So I actually when I was looking through on how I could implement this, I did notice a couple things. Like for instance, the first value, I can just take it directly straight from the first 4-bit adder, because it's actually, no matter what the input is, no matter what happens over here in this 4-bit adder, this one is never going to change. So it's always just going to take a direct input from here, which makes sense, because if this is the first bit, so it's always just going to be a 1 or a 0. It's never going to be anything else. So, but it gets a little more complicated once you get to these middle ones here. So you can see in the BCD adder, a diagram, there's also the correction gates in the middle here. So these correction gates, or correction logic here, I've had it take the output from a couple of these adders here and apply the correction logic. So the correction logic is, we got the fourth bit here. The third bit goes into an AND gate, which is this right here, is just kind of modified to accommodate for these. And then the second bit and the fourth bit is also going to go into another AND gate here. It's also modified to accommodate for this. And then they all three of them, including the carry out, which is, remember this purple line here, is all going to go into one big signal here, one big wire, which is, again, if we go back to where I talked about OR gates, you just give the signal to a single wire, and that single wire will be your output for that OR gate. So this is the OR gate back here. So you can see all these, they all go to the OR gate, and which then affects the second 4-bit adder in the BCD circuit. So not much changes here. Again, I removed some parts that I figured out when researching through this would be negligible. For instance, this XOR gate is actually, I just didn't need it, so I just removed it, because it is the first. There's no carry in, so I didn't need to add a carry input here. So therefore, this gate was completely pointless to have here. And then, so this one's basically the same, as nothing really changes. This final one, it doesn't need this first XOR gate, because again, there's no secondary output to compare it to, because the first bit and the fourth bit are just, you're just adding a 0 and whatever this output is. So this, if I'm adding a 0, I just don't need to add anything here, because just of how the gates work in this application. Okay, so now I'm going to give a short demonstration on how this adder works. So let's just start off with a simple number. So we will give it a value of 1, which would be its first input, and all the other ones will remain 0 for the A. Just to re-clarify, A is going to be on the left side of each one of these colors, and then B is going to be on the right side of each one of these. So we'll give A an input of 1, and then the rest will be 0. So that would be a value of 1. We'll have another value of 1 for B. The rest will be 0. And you can see here that it works. It is now displaying a 2 on the final output. And okay, we're just gonna click the reset button there. That just resets all the lamps. So now we're gonna try a bigger number here. So preferably one that goes over the carries. So we'll do 9 for A. So we got 8 and 1, and then we'll do 4 for B. So then should add up to a 13. Perfect. So it's working perfectly fine. And while this isn't part of the BCD adder, I do want to clarify how some other uses that this has. So this carry input, well, this first 4-bit adder up here is actually a 4-bit adder / subtractor, so it does subtract as well. But the BCD output is actually not connected to that. That would require more circuits that is not included in part of this. This is mainly just a BCD adder, but it does have a side effect of producing a binary sum. So we're just gonna binary sum and binary difference in this case. So we're gonna test the subtraction out real quick as well. So let's just start with the simple. We'll do 4 minus 2. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Minus 2, and then we'll set it to subtraction mode, and you can see there that is a subtraction total of 2 in binary, and of course the BCD sum will be slightly different. That's based on the carry, which will give an input or an output of 6 or 15, and then or 16, my bad, and then we'll just add everything else to it. And like a BCD adder, this will go up to 19. But one flaw that is included in this system would be if you were to go higher than 19. So let's just say I chose the numbers 9, and so 9, and we'll just do another 9. 9 plus 9, that should get you an 18. But if I were to go bigger than that by adding a carry here, you can see it kind of starts going off. It outputs a 16, but sometimes the display will not work correctly in this case, and that is certainly a flaw that comes with this implementation. That probably requires some other ways to do the logic that could fix it.